Shallow and clear enough, they wait for they should turn into the journey for this to be. When they siphon all they should be enough for the use against them for themselves, for the benevolence, and this is what no man has it for. But cannot think of the so many for the coping. The crop will die for the clean, the wood for the cleft by, for the F for this to love is eager enough, for the meaningless and 2 cents enough for the be the lax. Hearing every whisper for the speaking to them, shout and cried enough for the like you find it or not for the life of the doors to be enough and should they go by. Tracing for the fight, for this to be the right for your movement. Go for it. Shallow and clear enough, they wait for they should turn into the journey. Go for it. Shallow. Go for it. Shallow. Go for it. Shallow and clear enough, they wait for they should turn into the journey for this to be. When they siphon all they should be enough for the use against them for themselves, for the benevolence, and this is what no man has it for. And cannot think of the so many for the coping. The crop will die for the clean, the wood for the cleft by, for the F for this to love is eager enough for the meaningless and 2 cents enough for the be the lax. Hearing every whisper for the speaking to them, the shout and cried enough for the like you find it or not for the life of their doors to be ill enough and should they go by. Tracing for the fight, for this to be the right for your movement. How would you resolve? How would you evolve to a dead lover? That night the moon shakes bright enough for the dicing of the water for the elders, and you can find a flower for broken up upon that bush. Repeating the circle of the moon with the cycles, and this is within the month, and this is the fruit for the breaking of the white flower for the black of the wheel, the berries of the sun weighing out for the barrels of the road. There's no harvest enough for the heavy for the wintering, for this is the wheels of the bending enough for the writing of the mouse and chance their lovers for the birds and jungle twigs roll again. The other had the cleavage in the season has been. You'll find the elders of the powdery road banks and that for the sea for the year beyond that. I shall no longer find my fingers bright enough for the steel of your power. I will collaborate with you, for these are not words. These are not talk from dust. These are found within. In the carving meets the melanin for the leaving and the taking. Use all that for this to be the dead lover. This is not know for either of us to turn that for the first of waking up and sleeping of each other. For this and how you compare that for the river struck by the globe and the planet of the moon. For this is defining wishing not to be alone. For this is the disrespect for this person set free. For this is God to be me for the heavy upon you. Heavy upon that for the earth and heaping over the heart for the love has grown perfect enough for the shove over the bitter life for the perfect to last. So let it be the same for the weather return back to the dark to the kissing of another for the let it just know how leave taking you be heavy upon you for the blinding of me. You will be appearing in life.
Shallow and clear enough, they wait.
Shallow and clear enough, they wait for they should turn into.
Just lift your head. Just lift your head.
Just lift your head. Just lift your head.
Just lift your head. Just lift your head. Up from the deepest hole. You find out to the inner life and I'll leave you behind on your own. I settled enough well for the sin for the saying, get not for the artifact of who I've been. I realize I can take my art for the realest way to make it do what I wanted for David to bring it together for this if it's not for the intention enough for the setting. Well, it was told metaphorically enough for you to be inspiration as a force. Pack that for the mentor for who you pay tribute to. I don't wanna just survive. I wanna be a martyr as those who came before me. As the opportunity to have a daughter and those who blessed me. I call this not means erratically combining yourself to be descriptive for the elements that's now following you to serve. Repeating yourself from onto that for the disuse. In the backyard for you to navigate. Hearing yourself brutally intimidated. You will not be who to discover your archive of missing truth. You are falling out of what was noted otherwise. Contained as a critical response to your own choice of actions. You can lie to yourself. You find the material that for the best of the world, you find the imagination of the world. I also respect home. I also promise that for the translation, you find that severe enough for the future. I'm going back She is not a love song or just lift your head up from the deepest hole. You find out the inner life that leaves you behind and beyond. Just lift your head. Just lift your head up from the deepest hole. You find out the inner life now leaves you behind and beyond. I said it enough well for the same, but not for the artifact of who I've been. And I realize I can take my heart from the realest way to make it do what I want for days, but we together for this to be the master of attention, for the second. The word was told. Metaphorically enough for me to be inspiration, as a force, and like that, maybe therefore we can pay the tribute to. I wanna just survive. I wanna be martyr as those who came before me. It's the opportunity to have a daughter and those who give me blessings. I call this not intimate. Erratically combining yourself with the scripted for the elements is now following you, sir. Repeating yourself from onto that this in the backyard for you to navigate. Airing yourself is brutally intimidating. You will not be free to discover your archive of missing truth. You will fall now with what was noted, otherwise contained as a critical response to you and your choice of actions. Deny to yourself. You can find the material that for the vision of what you find the imagination of the world. I also dislike it. I also garnish that for the own translation of you find that severe enough for the future. Going back to that river, back to the ocean where I came from, lead me to the change of the seasons. She is not a love song or a dream. Process elimination. She is a song beneath my wings we sing. Pressure came out of this. Left in my memory. One past tense. It was only left in one memory. It was only left in one memory. One past tense memory for this to be edited, for this to only not be the record for the living of what you can find in the struggle. You have that for the backing of yesterday's tomorrows. That for the backing of what relation is for the intersection and for you to have that for learning how to take the difference and dismantle that for the genuine change. You have that for tomorrow for not to be personal enough for the spirit life for this to land between other where people live and this is only caters to rage yourself in the mix. What's the words? I am not your heritage. I am not that. What you feel is sweet back. What you find compelling. You holding in that truth, not coming into the light. You will be forever in the dark, on the edge of others' battles, and vision of your to lose yourself in the passion of what you concentrate. You find that sentimental disrespect for this exploration between you and lifelong development. You find yourself constantly getting trapped in sexism and classism and homophobia for this catalyst to change yourself for the mind after you. You're against that for all celebrating your life and you behind that. Translation of truth. It was only left with one memory. 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 was only left with one memory. It was only left with one memory. One past tense memory for this to be edited, for this to only not be the rest memory. It was only left with one memory. It was only left with one memory. One past tense memory for this to be edited, for this to only not be the reference for the living of what you can find in the struggle. You have that for the back of yesterday's tomorrows. You have that for the back of what relation is, for the intersection of, you can have that for the learning how to take the difference and dismantle that for the genuine change. You have that for tomorrow, for not to be personal enough, for the spirit life, for this is the land between other where people live, and this is only ways to rage yourself in the mix. What's the works? I am not your heritage. I am not that. Give me what you feel is feedback. You are hanging on by a thread for what you find compelling. You holding in that truth, not coming into the light. You will be forever in the dark, on the edge of others' battles, in the vision of your Move yourself in the passion of what you controverse. And find that sentimental rich respect for this exploration between you and the lifelong development. You find yourself constantly to the challenge in sexism and classism and the homophobia, for this is the catalyst to change yourself, for the mind that for the movement. You will be against that for all to live. Celebrating the life, and you can have that. Addressing it, your translation of truth. You will not be caught in the mix. You will not have that life for the working and survival. You will have that passion for the revolutionary, for you to be biologically intact, for this to be collaborating, yours to get from the strong-willed, and it's the energy to fight for that, for the equality. And love and justice for those to find peace in yourself, because it does exist. It's inside of you, and you gotta be able to touch that for the same things, and you can find yourself through the mythology. Who knows? Who cares? Who dreamed to that common place of the change of the world? Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Who cares? Who dreamed to that common place of the change of the world? It was left for the sentiments that he could and not have the willpower. Who spread all over that piece of paper for this to be the ink, the dream of a common language? Who was the beholding of that, for what was divided into the sections, for not for somewhere else but this from their life, for your social politics and beliefs, your accomplishments and discovery elements, and you can find that powerful, eventually leading you to death, and this will be the section. Unnecessary to change for the ideologies, and to have that for this to be the poem, the aim for the presenting the power for the love between two men and a woman, for this to be the change, and recognizing that kind of love, for that cannot involve itself, for this to be alienated because of that, for the recognizing of the world. You mention yourself for the force awakening, for the against that, for the discuss that, for this you can have the nature, for this compared to the elements, and you can find that for the transcendental. You find that ordinary for the material, you have that for the ordinary to convey, but for that the nature to change. You be the ideology for the this to redefine yourself with the common language. You dreamt enough. You have that exploration of your identity. You find yourself outside the circle, the definition, and you find yourself acceptable enough for who can be poor enough, for who can be black, and who can have that for the skill to survival, from dismantle your mantle house. Temporarily beat yourself to home game, and this is enable yourself to bring yourself to a genuine change, and this is the fact that only threatening to those who still define the master house as their only source of support. place to rage between yourselves and the point of your return. Hanging on what's erotic enough for the power for the spelling of the name. The bursts of light and the arithmetics of you have the silence to protect your poem. Your humble poem upon the difficulty enough for the communication that you can have the silence and you will have that reference. Would it matter anyway for the journals? You find yourself an outsider. Who knows? Who cares? Who dreamed to that common place of the change of the world? Who's left for the sentiments that he could and not have the willpower? Who spread all over that piece of paper for this to be the ink, the dream of a common language? Who is the beholding of that for what was divided into the sections for not for somewhere else but this from the life, your social politics and beliefs, your accomplishments and discovery elements, and you can find that powerful, eventually leading you to death, and this will be the section. Unnecessary to change for the ideologies, and to have that for this to be the poem, the aim for the presenting the power for the love between two men and a woman, for this to be the change and recognizing that kind of love, for that cannot involve itself, for this to be alienated because of that, for the recognizing of the world. You mention yourself for the force awakening, for the against that, for the discuss that, for this you can have the nature, for this compared to the elements, and you can find that for the transcendental. You find that ordinary for the material, you have that for the ordinary to convey that for that the nature to change. You be the ideology for the this to redefine yourself with the common language. You dreamt enough. You have that exploration of your identity. You'll find yourself outside the circle, the definition of you find yourself acceptable enough for the who could be poor enough, for who could be black, and who can have that for the skill to survival, for the dismantle of your smantle house. Temporarily beat yourself to own game, but this is enable yourself to bring yourself to a genuine change, and this is the fact they're only threatening to those who still define the master house as their only source of support. You will find that place to rage between yourselves and the point of your return. Hanging on what's erotic enough for the power for the spelling of the name. The bursts of light and the arithmetics of you have the silence to protect your poem. Your humble poem upon the difficulty enough for the communication that you can have the silence and you will have that reference. Will it matter anyway for the journals? You find yourself an outsider. Who knows? Who cares? Who dreamed to that common place of the change of the world? Who's left for the sentiments that he could and not have the willpower? Who spread all over that piece of paper for this to be the ink, the dream of a common language? Who's the beholding of that for what was divided into the sections for not for somewhere else but this from the life, for your social politics and beliefs, your accomplishments and discovery elements, and you can find that powerful, eventually leading you to death, and this will be the section. Unnecessary to change for the ideologies, and to have that for this to be the poem, the aim for the presenting the power for the love between two men and a woman, for this to be the change and recognizing that kind of love, for that cannot involve itself, for this to be alienated because of that, for the recognizing of the world. You mention yourself for the force awakening, for the against that, for the discuss that, for this you can have the nature, for this compared to the elements, and you can find that for the transcendental. You find that ordinary for the material, you have that for the ordinary to convey that for that the nature to change. You be the ideology for the this to redefine yourself with the common language. Dreamt enough. You have that exploration of your identity. You'll find yourself outside the circle, the definition, and you find yourself acceptable enough for who could be poor enough, for who could be black, and who can have that for the skill to survival, for the dismantle of your smantle house. Temporarily beat yourself to own game, and this will enable yourself to bring yourself to a genuine change, and this is the fact they're only threatening to those who still define the master house as their only source of support. Find that place to rage between yourselves and the point of your return. Hanging on what's erotic enough for the power for the spelling of the name. The bursts of light and the arithmetics of you have the silence to protect your poem. Your humble poem upon the difficulty enough for the communication that you can have the silence. You will have that reference. Will it matter anyway for the journals? You find yourself an outsider. Who knows? Who cares? Who dreamed to that common place of the change of the world?
Perfect.
Shot them clear enough, they wait for they should turn into the journey for this to be. When they siphon all they should been enough for the use against them for themselves, for the benevolence, and this is what no man has a friend, for they cannot think of the so many for the coping. The crop of that for the clean, the wood for the cleft by, for the F for this, the love isn't eager enough for the meaningless and 2 cents enough for the be the lax. Hearing every whisper for the speaking to them, the shout and cried enough for the like you find it or not for the life of their doors to be ill enough and should it go by. Tracing for the fight, for this to be the right for your move. How would you resolve? How would you evolve to a dead level? That night the moon shakes bright enough for the dicing of the water for the elders, and you can find a flower for broken up upon that bush. Repeating the circle of the moon, the cycles, and this within the month, for this is the fruit, for the breaking of the white flower, for the black and wheel, the berries of the sun weighing out for the bearers of the road. There's no harvest enough for the heavy, for the wintering, for this is the wheels and the bending enough for the ripening of the mouse and chance their lovers for the birds and try to twigs roll again. You how the cleavage and the seasons have been. You'll find the elders of the powdery road banks and that for the sea for the year beyond it. I shall no longer find my fingers bright enough for the steel of your power. I will collaborate with you, for these are not words. These are not talk from the dust. These are found within. And the carving meets the melanin for the leaving and the taking. You saw that for the this would be the dead lover. This and I not know for either of us who turned that for the first of waking up and sleeping of each other for this, and how you can bear that for the river struck in by the globe and the climate of the moon for this is defining wishing not to be alone for this is the disrespect for disperse and set free for this is beyond to be to me for the heavy upon you. Heavy upon that for the earth and heaping over the heart for the love is grown perfect enough for the shove over to be the life of the perfect to last. So let it be the same for the weather return back to the dark to the kissing of another for the letters just know how leave taking you be heavy upon you for the blinding of me no more. You will be appearing in that for the spreading of the roots tight enough for the darkest brown enough for the brightness and like the hair for the casting over or silver, and I am not alone for the chairs and the walls and I have been washed and brightened enough for the view to be beside me. I was awakened never like this, but whenever it came to be taken enough for the growing of the what you could find, the beating of the wind for this to coming off for the month of the falling of the what you could find. Tomorrow, you and not mine. I may not remember for this not matter enough, it should not be with you again enough for the know me for what you can find, the scattered enough for the ruin to blow like dust in the rain. You've been dead a long season now, for less than I can desire, for who's the lover, for who I have life, for the old reason, for the waiting, whatever comes and leave it what is over. It was past tense for this to be originally designed. The original symbolic way to find a rhythm with a rhyme and a scheme for the accompanying of what you can find chanting. I be the inner tune for the amongst the trees, and I find that joy for the sunset, for the will of the winds, and not cold enough for the rain, for this is not wet enough to go for the herb, and you can find that cloud. What am I to do? Although you got my borrow away, for the cannot check that for the only playing. Above you for the how proud you are for the hanging and what you can spray. What you relate is nothing.